Hey, Jason here. So I'm going to preface this by saying I'm not really spoke about this stuff, especially to the depth I'm going to. Um, I've learned to one person, and that was only the last few years. So, and a lot of these events happened 15 years ago. So I spent a long time just sitting with this. And because I've not spoken about this, and I don't want to edit the hell out of this video, I might trip up my words. So just give me some grace, please. So let's quickly start with basic training. I got through that. I had 4 good friends there, all smokers. That's how we hung out. 2 of them never made it, and so it was just me and this other guy. And we get through basics, first attempt. And I'm like, all right, you get to choose kind of where you go, and you get to put a preference. Like, I want to go here, preferably second, third, and then you'll maybe get what you're after. So this asshole that's my friend, he's like this natural athlete guy, and my backstory is just a nerdy social outcast gamer dude who didn't really do any prep work fitness-wise to get in. I somehow just got through. I just pure grit. And I was probably the most unfit person going through basics. So this asshole was like, I want to go to 2 Squadron in the RAF regiment. So that's one of the pathways into Special Forces support groups. So they are high levels of fitness, high levels of training. They pride themselves on being the best that they can be. So my dumb ass, like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Let's do this. Yeah, sure. That sounds amazing. Turns out I was not made for that. I would be the weakest link in that chain on the physical fitness front. And that's not you don't want to be that. If you're going to go there, you got to be the best, or try and be the best. So we get to Squadron and we get divvied up, and you have different flights. So there's A, B, C, and D, and I was support weapons. So on support weapons, you have the big guns. I became a mortarman. My job was being a number 3 on the mortar. So I'm the guy that sets the charge for the round, which I pass to the number 2, who then puts it down the barrel, which the number 1 has calculated the destination, done all that comm stuff. So I was the FNG, the fucking new guy to this. So I had an important job, but it was also, it was the starting place on it. And we drilled, we trained, and it came time for us to go to Afghan. Turns out Afghan wasn't going to really require mortars that much, so we still did mortars, but we were also split into different flights. So flights like units, they hold, I want to pull a ballpark figure on my ass, but like 25 people, let's say. I can't remember the exacts. And then in that flight, there's 4 sections, if I remember, which are just smaller. So I can't remember the exacts, but just roll with me. So we get split off into that, and my job, once again, the fucking new guy, a mortarman in a war that we're about to fight in that doesn't really require necessarily mortars. I become, I don't know of the terminology I can use, so I'll just call it the guy that has a metal detector trying to find IEDs, improvised explosive devices. So that's our training. I'm feeling pretty good about this. Every training's going well, feeling confident, we're getting all this amazing equipment, and I'm feeling pretty secure on this. So time comes to go to war, and I don't think the gravity of what was going to happen over the next, I want to say 7 months, it didn't really unfold in my brain as to the scope of things. So you get on the plane and you have your equipment, and once you start getting closer to Kandahar, which is where we flew into, you don your helmet, pull your little window seat aisle, freaking window curtains closed. They turn off all the lights, and the only thing you can see is cat eyes, which are like these luminous 2 dots on the back of a helmet, and you just see them bobbling everywhere. And this plane is flying, and the way to fly into hostile areas is you nosedive, lights out kind of thing, and it's to minimize the risk of being shot down. So although I'm having all this training, and although externally I look very prepared, internally I'm still a 22-year-old kid of holy shit, this is going on. So flying in was like a roller coaster, except, it ain't no theme park ride. So, settle down, and you have 2 weeks of acclimatizing to the environment. So that runs, once again, my least favorite thing, especially in an environment it's that hot. And thankfully we arrived in winter, so it wasn't hot, but it was kind of hot compared to UK hot. So 2 weeks of that. Now, what our job was, so the RAF regiment is the infantry for the Air Force, right? And our job in Kandahar was to try and provide security for the base. So we had like a 50. I feel like I couldn't talk about this before, maybe because like we were still there, but in recent news, I guess I feel like I'm free to speak about it more freely. So we had north, east, southwest, and these were kind of the regions. We had a 50-kilometer bubble around Kandahar, and our job was to hearts and mind and try and prevent like IDF indirect fire coming into the base. And that's an impossible job, because you just have a tube sat there in the middle of a field in the middle of nowhere with a timer on it, and just occasionally just shoot off and fly into this base, which is where the hearts and mind comes in, because we're trying to connect to the locals to get ahead of these things. So my first day out on the field, we went to the east, which had a forward operating base. I should be able to put a picture up of a view from there. We ended up following, I want to say Afghan National Army were following behind us, or maybe the police, and I'm on the rear vehicle inside this Vixen, I want to call them, which is like just an armored Land Rover. And I was top cover, which is the guy that sits on the top. And I'm on the rear, and I'm, once again, this nervous, nerdy kid, and I am so out of my depth in this world. And these fucking assholes are riding our ass, and I've got these mini flares, and you might fire a mini flare as like a warning shot to be like, don't go too close, I'm going to shoot you. So a mini flare is like a precursor to that escalation of conflict. And I'm having these assholes tail me, and I'm shouting down to my driver, or my I guess you call it vehicle commander, of like, the fuck am I meant to do here? Should I tell these guys to back off, or like? And he's just like, he's going through his own thing. We're all going through our own thing, because you've gone from England to 2 weeks on a base to an unknown world, and this world is unknown. It's they like bombed out flats there that are like, sky rises, and they're blown in half. And I remember it clear as day of this woman on the top floor hanging a laundry out of just a room that wasn't there anymore in this place. So it was an experience getting there. Once we got to this forward operating base, it was a cozy little nook. Had a few watch posts, had a small little crew quarter area to sleep in. Had the basics. We worked out of there for 15 days at a time. So that was my first time, and my first, I guess, fortnight in Afghan properly. And we did some foot patrols. Nothing crazy happened. You're kind of going to these villages. People are throwing rocks at you and stuff. You're experiencing just a different culture, and I would best describe it like it looked like Tatooine from Star Wars. Everything was made out of mud. So we finished our 15 rotation, and you go back to Kandahar, and I can't remember the exacts, but you would go QRF first, which is Quick Response Force. So some guys got put on Merc, which is they would go up in the Chinooks, and they would be responsive. Like if someone over in Helmand Province got injured, our boys would go up with them. The ones that are like combat medic trained medics would go up with them, and security detail for them too would go up with them, and they would help with that. And the rest of us would kind of just be sat around, and that would be more of like a base response if anything kicked off, or if any of our guys got in trouble. Just kind of a backup to what was already going on. And then you'd have, I want to say like 2 or 3 days off, and that was you go to the local market, on base and stuff like that, buy some shady DVDs, maybe go to the gym. I went to a salsa class once with with my homeboy. It was just this. We were just walking through this base, and we came across this like American thing, and it was like all base dwellers, and they were like having a full-on like salsa thing going on. And we went there, like we just went there that night, and it was a different world, because in our environment it was just men, and you were living inside just discomfort for most of the time. So coming across that was, it was a different world inside a different world. So the second time we went out, we went to the west. I want to say we went to the west, and they had kind of like this. Yeah, my brain is struggling. I'm gonna have a lot of patchiness, so please bear with me. We had a forward operating base drying house there that we kind of used, but I don't remember the exact timeline. So during all this, every time you're moving around, you have these vulnerable points, and they're like, it could be just a ditch or a place that looks vulnerable, or if the driver sees something suspicious, or just lots of different scenarios that are considered vulnerable points. So I was part of this 4-man group, and we'd get out our metal detectors and we'd try and find things. And this could be like 20 times in one journey of stopping every, I don't know, few hundred meters if you're fortunate, and stopping and doing the checks. And the checks can take like 30 minutes at a time. And these assholes, they would bury like loose change, let's say, or like brass. Like they had to give the currency in Kandahar was like paper coins. Pretty sure I got some at home. I'll link some up. So these assholes, they would bury these like, let's say, change or shrapnel, like brass casings and stuff like that, just loose bits of metal, and they would bury it here, and then bury it here, and then the third one potentially IED. And so you'd have this constant thing of, you'd constantly be finding suspected IEDs, but it would keep throwing you off as to when you're going to find them. Now, at this point in my tour, I was still in the mindset of that inner child, that gamer nerd of like, oh, respawn buttons exist. The gravity still hadn't really hit. And I think we're at the west, and I'm pretty sure this is the second rotation. We parked up for the night, and you could once get 15 days out, and you'd put your vehicles in a circular formation, and we were parked up, and I'm sat there next to my vehicle. To put in perspective, when you're away from a forward operating base, you would be sleeping. You'd have your vehicles in a circular motion. You'd be sleeping inside or closer to your vehicles, and you'd have like a cot bed, if I remember correctly, inside a mosquito net, and that would be it. And that way you can obviously get more mobile and everything else and travel around more. So we're sat there and we're eating dinner, and you just hear this monolithic boom up. It came from like the north, and I want to say a kilometer or two away to the north. It was one of our boys. They got hit, and they were in a Wimmick, which is like a Land Rover without a roof, and it has like a heavy weapon attached to the top of it, be it like a grenade launcher, heavy grenade launcher, I think they call it, if I remember correctly, or like a heavy machine gun, like 50 cal on top of it. And then you'd have I want to say a Jimpy, general purpose machine gun attached on the front of the passenger seat, and you'd have your driver. One of them got hit, and it's a bit blurry, but you got to think these are just people just like us. And I don't know if it was who was talking on the radio, But they were freaking the fuck out because their homeboys just got blown up, and it turned out one of them died, and it was only a small IED compared to how big they can get, and one of them died, and another one was just, I would say, injured for the rest of his life, to say the least. And then there was, I believe, a third one was in a spot, but I think it would be okay. Later in the tour, the vehicles we ended up getting would have been strong enough, I believe, to like sustain this type of hit. They were just designed better, but our equipment was so fucking old that it just knocked him out. So this is my first experience of like, oh fuck, I'm actually in war, and I think we all kind of felt that, of like, oh, this is happening. So our response was, we're gonna go for a patrol to show we're not scared. And we come across that first vulnerable point, and that was probably one of the most terrifying experiences of my life, of realizing that there is no respawn button. Like, I'm gonna die, and they were all doing our job, but the hesitation was real. Like it was. Well, I think we ended up calling it like halfway through this vulnerable point, and just being like, "That's it, no more. Let's call this a day." And that fear won that day. For the rest of my tour, it was like 6 months left at this point, maybe 5. It was every single day waking up and doing that job, knowing what was out there and knowing the importance of it. And every fucking day, just vulnerable points and these false IEDs, and actually finding them sometimes. And that was our biggest enemy, in my opinion, was these fucking IEDs, because the danger was everywhere. So we carried on through the tour. When you're back on base, you're getting IDFs come in, so you're just driving around and you're eating your food, and these IDFs are going off, and there are explosions, and like people are dying from these. This is no joke. This is it's a fucking war zone. And on these patrols, we would find them occasionally, and some locals were actually cooperative and helped us. Obviously, there was money involved. So I'm jumping over the place now, but after a while you get desensitized to it all. Like the first few IDFs, you're like, holy shit, this is insane. And after a while, you're just like, I guess I'm gonna die. Like you just kind of accept that it's happened. Like life just turns normal, and it's crazy how fast we adjust to it. So a month or two after we lost them guys, we came across this this vulnerable point, and it was where we had a few squadrons back on rotation. They had lost a guy there, so we rock up there, and it's just one to do, but because we're getting out of winter at this point, it was just a lake, basically. It wasn't dried out or anything like that. It was just a lake, but we had to do the checks. And there was, as we rock up, there's 2 guys cleaning their motorcycle off. Don't think of it, right? They're just cleaning the bike off. And, we get pulled up, and because we've had this flood, we've got to go check it. But when you get in there, you're like, I shit you not, you're like up to your tits in fucking water, and your equipment's underwater. There's no way you can hear this. The equipment's not functional, and because of the flood, and like the vulnerable point should be like this, and it was like this, and you have a 4-man team to cover twice the area. It was impossible. So that was a right bitchin' moan. Got on the other side, and I'm just like, for fuck's sake, what a stupid thing this is. Like this, we should just not go this way. We just didn't have the right tools. So I'm standing there waiting for my vehicle, and we're one of the rear ones. And all these vehicles are going past, and I think it was like the fourth vehicle in the convoy, the command vehicle of all of them. It picked it up, and there was command wires it picked up, and it turned to them two dudes cleaning that bike were actually laying just a monolithic IED, and we caught them before they actually finished. And no one picked it up. No one picked it up. And if we got there like 5 minutes later, the amount of death would have been just horrific. So I lose my shit. I walk back to my vehicle, and I'm in a huff puff, and I'm blaming this other guy who's kind of like my battle buddy. He was my homeboy in the back of this Vixen. But I got back there, and I was like, this fucking asshole's let us down. He's failed to do it. He didn't pick up on this. And I pointed towards this fucking asshole. And the hardest part came to me is I failed to realize the three fingers looking back is it was actually in my lane. I failed. I missed it. And thankfully no one died, but I failed my team. And that fucking destroyed me. Shame on my soul of just, I had one fucking job. And my whole body just died. My digestive system shut down. I didn't go to the bathroom for 15 days. I started throwing up because I couldn't go. I ended up getting taken back to Roll 1 Hospital, which is for people that are missing fucking limbs. And I'm sitting there in a booth hearing people have death rattle cries and screams, and I'm sitting there, I just need a shit. That's all I need. And I ended up getting x-rayed, and I remember this big burly American Marine. He's just a massive unit. I'm sitting there on this freaking hospital bed in this dark room, and he's looking at this image, and he looks at me and he's like, "You're full of shit." And I was literally full of shit, but it marked me. I just felt like such a failure of a man, I wasn't enough. So I ended up getting some laxatives. That's a different fucking story. I just couldn't. I just checked out. I think that was the turning point where it was just, I just stopped feeling after that. I lost a part of me with this whole experience. So tour went on, lots of stuff happened. That was the worst of it, to be honest, just letting people down. It really created a difficulty with dealing with failure. My Santa's going to talk. Concerningly, that Santa is talking, listening. So, I guess the third thing I'll talk about, which is thankfully less taxing. Kandahar ended up coming under attack. They blew some stuff up, and they were trying to breach the base. And we were on, not QRF, but we were on the reserve rest. And me and this homeboy, we were in the mess hall at the time, the British mess hall. And all these IDFs are going off. I think it was a full-on attack. And this is getting close to the end of our tour, and we were just, you can tell who's new there and who's not, because the new people, as soon as one explosion goes off, they would just get to the deck and hide. And after a while, you just, accept it. So we just sat there, ate our food, and enough went off, and we were like, oh, we should probably go check this out. And we went outside, and I had a cup of coffee with me, and this guy was next to me. He said, he was a good friend, and he still is a good, I've not been in contact for a long time, but he's a good man. And we're walking, and you have this Hesco barrier, I want to call them, just these bags full of stones here, and we're walking out the mess hall here, and we get to about this point, and I'd say 2 more steps on the other side of it. So you hear this missile coming down, and it ends up landing right on the other side of this barrier, and it was enough to knock you on your feet. And Oh, it still cracks. On the way down, I had my cup of coffee and I intentionally threw it at this guy. Not in his face or anything, like just at his clothes. And it was just like, that was kind of like military humor, just being assholes to each other. And that was that, 2 more steps and I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be having this conversation. Like, I'd be out of the equation. So when that kicked off, we realized, okay, we should probably get to someone in authority and be like, all right, maybe is there something going on here? And it turned out there was. We ended up loading into Blackhawks, and that was a cool experience. I mean, like, didn't have seatbelts, kind of hanging out the fucking door, flying around, and it turns out our mission was to assault a compound where they had holed up, and so we ended up finding that compound, and we settled down, and me and this other fellow were on point, so that means we're like the first going in. So we covered the ground from where we landed to where we're going, and turned out it was the wrong fucking place. I don't know if it's actually a legit memory or not, but it might have been a minefield. I can't remember. It's how I remember it, but I don't know what's real anymore sometimes about this stuff. But we get there, and I swear I heard it was a minefield, and we got pretty much said, like, this is the wrong place, and they had fucked up. These Black Hawk pilots or whoever fucked up. So then we ended up running on back, and like I said, it was like, if it was a minefield, if my memory's serving correctly, like, self-preservation was just non-existent, and it was this, that always stuck with me of like, that's some damn good training right there. A few other things happened, but we ended up getting better vehicles in the end, like I said before, and that was cool. I got one of them. Anyway, so the tour came to an end, and we go home, 24 hours in Cyprus to decompress, and that was when I started realizing that something wasn't right with me. Like, I couldn't sleep indoors. I was stuck sleeping outdoors. And we all got drunk, and that's when it was a teetotal tour. The stress and the trauma was picked up within the tour, and we're all kind of going through that. And I think the point of the 24-hour decompression was to kind of keep an eye out for lunatics at this, within that block, kind of test the water. Getting home, and you have a welcome home parade, and then you see a family, and you go home 6 weeks. And anyone that's gone through that, it's the weirdest thing, because you spend all this time in a desert or a war zone, and you come home and everything's changed, but nothing's changed. Like, people just have experienced life differently. Like, music has changed, and the top movies have changed, and people's lives have moved on. And you kind of, when you're gone, you expect everything's going to be normal when you get back. So when I came back, I got the news near enough right away that my brothers were moving back to America with my stepdad. And these are the two young men, like 9 and 10 at this time, that I was kind of fighting for. So coming back from that situation to finding that news out, it was like the pain it didn't stop. It just kept going. Ended up going for a night out with some old friends before the military, getting really drunk, and as the alcohol was going, I was having like weird responses. I'd cry for no particular reason. Like, there was nothing really popping into me, but I would just keep breaking down into tears, and I would find a quiet hole to curl up in and just cry. And I guess it was the body releasing it all. But at this particular house party, ended up hooking up with this 18-year-old chick from Tesco's, right? Like, she worked there, young, naive, stupid. Maybe she had a hard-on for people coming back from war, and it sounded good. So anyway, we're making out, and everyone kind of shoots off, and we carry on and go up to our room, and try and get it on, and came, like, things didn't work. Like, war has a very strange effect on the body, and things just didn't work for me. And, I wanted it to. And it would always be etched in my soul of just this. Whenever I hear the word, it brings rage into me. But her comment was, she looks me dead in the eye, and she says, like, man up. And I didn't act in it, but violent things came to my mind. It was all that pain and anger and confusion coming back into a world that really didn't understand, and it wanted out. And I just got dressed and I walked away. Next day I took my brother swimming. I knew it was the last time. We couldn't, to the point I probably wouldn't see him again for a very long time. They didn't know yet. And I made sure I got the picture, and I still got it. It's always kind of followed me in life of a time when things made sense, and that's saying something like after just coming back from war. They end up going. My mom left in the country with my sister, who I wasn't really close with at the time. And I ended up going on another night out with two of her friends, and like, people are like curious, so they ask questions like, "Oh, did you shoot anyone?" And like, I personally didn't, and I always found that question kind of frustrating because it's like a metric for, did you actually do anything? And my statement would be like, maybe, I don't know, really far away, like. But the truth is, I didn't fire a single fucking shot the entire tour, and I had shame over that because it was like I didn't do anything. But looking back, I did quite a lot. So we go for this few drinks. We go back one of their places, and we're just drinking, and night comes to an end. And as the alcohol's increasing, I'm getting more and more disassociated, like unaware of my surroundings, and at some point in time I felt like I was being held captive. So after everyone kind of simmered down, I tried sneaking out, I'm like leopard crawling, and they're like, well, I guess one of them wasn't asleep. They're like, "What you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, no." And I felt like I felt like I just got caught, and I went through this. And I've never been held prisoner, so I don't know where this came from, but I just started repeating my name and my service number over and over and over. And eventually I calmed down and I feigned sleep, and I waited a bit more time, and I managed to escape this perceived prison. And I don't know where I was going, but I went, and eventually I found a road, and I just laid down in it, and I was just done. It was all the war and then coming back in my life, but losing my brothers, how that happened, and then I guess interacting with people. I know people have the best intentions in mind, but it was just, I just felt so alone with it all, and I just wanted out. I just wanted it to end. So I laid in that road hoping to die that day. I couldn't do that anymore. I phoned up my mom. I don't remember what I said, but I'm guessing it was kind of like, wishing her farewell. She must have asked the right questions, or I told her the right answers, because thankfully she found me before another car did. Next day I booked flights, and I decided that I just couldn't do this environment anymore. It was too close to a person I used to be, and not the person I have become. And I never really hung out with anyone again from that group. That was like a closed chapter. I ended up flying into Vegas, and then going to Utah where my brothers were, spending the rest of my R&R, rest of recuperation over there, or whatever I'll fucking call it. And first few days I spent in Vegas, I had like 10 grand saved up from the tour, and I blew it all on like just strippers and alcohol and gambling and just releasing just irresponsible time. And I spent the rest of the time with my uncle, just shooting guns, chilling with my brothers. He pulled a mattress outside. I slept on that. Like, they looked after me. They gave me a safe place to come back to humanity. And then I went back to work, and I was thankfully less suicidal, but I never really came back from all that. Like, that whole chapter, there's a part of me that just, it's gone. Like I said, I lost my ability to feel for a very, very long time, and I was having, flashbacks and bangs, and fireworks were fucking bad for a long time. Being in cars was difficult. Sleeping was difficult. Like, the night terrors were pretty persistent for like 5 years. And the fear of failure, which I think was, out of everything, and there's a lot of other things I don't want to talk about, but I think that letting the team down was the thing that lingered for the longest. And it's only within the last 2.5 years that I started properly climbing out of that pit, and I've had to work through a lot of that. So if you got all the way through this video, I really hope it either gave you insight, or you've had a similar, don't hope you've had a similar experience, but if you've had a similar experience or yours is worse, I just hope that that this message found the hands of the right person, and it does something good in the world. I suffered alone for a long time, thinking, like, when you're going through something like that, you think you're the only person, and your world just shrinks. And my intention for sharing this is hopefully someone out there is not feeling so alone. Hopefully hearing me talk's giving them courage to seek help for themselves and reach out to a charity, or get mental health support, or just realize that you don't have to suffer alone in this. It's fucking, life's too short. You've done a noble deed, and you just, I'm gonna go now. Have a great day.